Welcome to Channel AMAC, your insight to the Australian visa system. Good day everyone, my name is Carl Young, your online YouTube visa consultant. Are you interested about migrating to Australia? Why don't you consider to subscribe to my channel and turn on the little bell on the side. So once we have all the updates and news, you'll be the first one getting all the insight. Now today's video, I would like to discuss something that not frequently be asked, but if you do have experiences as an international student, working holiday maker, or perhaps been traveling around the world, all the young people may fall in love and got into relationships. Now, should you really get into a relationship while you're in Australia? This is actually a very awkward and very interesting topic. The reason I choose this topic to discuss in this video is because over the years I've seen a lot of problem, issues, difficulties for people within the relationship, usually while not in their relationship, but when they decided to break up. It's very problematic, and in this video I'd like to discuss how you should really treat your relationship as a consultant. Although I'm not a love consultant, but I've sometimes receiving clients in consultation spending long time chatting in regards to their relationship, and some of them have been through those consultations. You might know how it's like. Okay, so now first of all, should you really enter into a relationship? Well, everybody have the freedom to choose who they want to be with and to love someone else or the one that you really love with. The problem here is, if you are not a citizen or permanent resident of Australia, having a relationship with someone else, whether or not they are Australian citizen or permanent resident, or perhaps they are just another visa holders in Australia, is actually a very complicated issue. Now, short term, that's fine, but if it's gonna go for medium and long term, that will actually cause a lot of issue when fights started. Now recently we have just seen Johnny Depp and Amber on the court. I'm not too sure why that becomes a global news nowadays, or even a bigger news than the war broke about in Ukraine. Don't know, but again, you see the issue there is actually huge. Now when it evolved in visa, it's actually very complicated. Now, obviously, I've done a video in regards to domestic violence. Now, I do not want to see that kind of things happening, but I have done a particular video on that one. If you have interest about that topic, you may want to choose that video to have a look. So, obviously, now, Australian government is very keen. The Department of Immigration, Department of Home Affairs has actually done a web page like this. So what you need to do is you Google your relationship has changed space Home Affairs Australia. You may be able to find this page yourself. Basically, it gives you a guideline what happened if the relationship had changed. Well, basically meant your relationship had broken up. Okay, so it depends on the type of visa that you hold. It has a very dramatic result if that actually happens. But again, I am not a specialist in family law. You may want to consult with a family lawyer in regards to your relationship, whether or not you have committed into marriage, or perhaps a de facto or civil partnership relationship. It's all a part of the family law. But if it's got to relate to the visa, now, all I can say is having a relationship is great, but if you guys want to fight, never bring up the issue about visa. Now, why am I saying that? Because look, it makes the visa holder, while the one is not permanent resident or citizen of Australia, in a situation where he or she may feel, look, I've been forced to choose in a way that I cannot have any decision to pick whether or not freedom to actually break up or having a relationship. So it's very disadvantage for visa holder. For example, if you are dependent on someone else that has the visa as a primary visa holder, or he or she is Australian permanent resident or citizens, obviously if the relationship ended, then your visa ended. You're required to leave. Now think about this. If you've already been in Australia for a long time and you have a lot of assets, work and things already settled in Australia, if a fight breaks up and relationship ended, then your days in Australia is gone. Now that's crazy to think about. Now that's not just we're not just talking about you in a relationship with the Australian permanent resident or citizen, but if you're in a relationship with the primary visa holder of so-called work visa, as you can see, a work visa, or being sponsored, or a student visa as dependent, or even a New Zealand citizen family relationship visa, if the relationship ended, obviously you're required to leave. I've recently encountered a client came to me. They were in a relationship a long time, and they were both in one visa. Now obviously they came to me because the relationship had ended, so one of them is required to leave the country. So they asked me, what do I do? Well, what you can do is you need to leave the country, otherwise you become unlawful. So it's very problematic. So why am I saying all this? The reason I'm telling you as a viewer to understand this is you need to think back. If you want to enter into a relationship, obviously you're free to enter into a relationship. But if that's gonna depend into a visa condition, you really need to think twice, and probably 3 times or 4 times, because you would like to hold your visa as your own. That's the best. So whatever the situation that you're in, it's best that you are the actual primary visa holder. Now you can have a relationship with Australian citizen or Australian permanent resident or another visa holder in Australia, but not dependent on he or her. I'm not dependent on him or her, okay? So you will have a freedom if your relationship has changed and you're required to end the relationship, but not affecting your visa status in Australia. You see what I mean? Because I've seen so many, they wanted to take the easy route. Easy route is basically just dependent on the other side of the personnel, and they have never thought about what if the relationship ended, what if there's a fight going on, what if we broken up, and my visa is dependent and connected to him or her, and while that relationship ended, well, sometimes the other side will like to report you straight away to the immigration and say, look, our relationship had already ended. Emotional point of view, without logically thinking how this can be resolved, and you may be unlawful straight away, and that's a big issue. I've seen so many over the years, and that's the reason I've decided to make this video, to let everybody know that, look, of course you're free to enter a relationship, of course you're free to love someone or one that you love with, but you really need to think twice, 3 times perhaps, whether or not your visa shall connected and dependent on that person. Because if things go wrong, it may go extremely difficult and complex in the case if you're dependent and that dependency is about to break up. Anyway, should you have more question or query, more than welcome to leave a comment right down below, and I'll see you next video. Goodbye.